Hello and welcome to Film Seizure. My name is Chuck Moore. Today we are covering our fourth installment of the Bond series, License to Kill from 1989. And to talk about this action-packed movie, with me as always are Jason Oliver. Hi, Jason.
Hello, Jason. Jason Oliver.
Jason Oliver. Yes. And
Backward. I kind of fucked that up.
Yeah, you kind of fucked that up, Bond.
Yeah.
Good job.
and also there you hear Jeff Arbuckle. Oh, wait, I fucked it up.
Yeah, there it is.
Stirred, not shaken.
Yes. How's it going, Chuck, Jason? I'm so happy to be talking about this one. I have so much love in my heart for this entry.
Interesting.
Yes, it is. It's yeah. So here we are. This is I only, much like with George Lazenby, I had a very shallow pool to pick a Timothy Dalton movie. It was either this one or his first movie, The Living Daylights. Well, I'll talk briefly about The Living Daylights here in a minute, but no, I'm excited about this. This was the first one that I ever saw in the theater. I had not seen any of the other ones before that in the theater. I had only seen them on TV prior to this. So, yeah, this is another one of those.
I don't think I saw this in the theater.
Yeah, this is another one of those summer of '89 living in the theater before I started my, what would that have been, the seventh grade year of school. So, so I guess I can dive into a little bit of all of that, unless you guys have something you wanted to say before I get into some of the behind the scenes business.
I don't remember the first time I saw this. I think it was one that was on TV as a kid, and I'd watch it. I remember being kind of entertained by the fact that it was the same scary guy from the Goonies.
Yeah. Yeah, Robert Davi. Yeah.
But no, honestly, I don't think I really truly fell in love with this movie until I did my rewatch of the series over the pandemic. And this one, man, it is so 80s, so violent. and really ridiculous, but I love all of that about it. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about it.
All right. Chuck, probably kind of do you kind of double that? Do you double O that sentiment?
I don't know if I double O it. I think this movie, it's fun. It's a lot of fun, but it's totally fucking weird. Like, sure. There's jokes where they do not belong and all sorts of stuff like that. So I like it. It's fun, but it's totally weird.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's like the Dalton wasn't very good with the innuendo.
No,
right?
and that's kind of part of the behind the scenes. We'll get to that. But yeah, no, I know what you're saying about that. I mean, it's like, yeah, it is. It is. This is a stark departure from particularly the Roger Moore era.
Yeah,
that was a couple of movies before it. So I guess that's probably a good place to kind of pick up some of the behind the scenes stuff. So yeah, so Dalton came in with Living Daylights. Now, of course, there's the famous story about how it should have never been Dalton. It was supposed to be Pierce Brosnan. That actually Pierce Brosnan was hired, I think, during the filming of For Your Eyes Only. His first wife was one of the girls in a scene for Your Eyes Only, and so he met with Cubby Broccoli, and he was like, "Yeah, you're going to be, I think you're the guy when Roger Moore gives up." And he's like, "Okay, well, I'm just going to go off because Roger Moore's probably not going to give up for a little while. I'm going to go off and do my acting thing," and he became Remington Steele. And Remington Steele was axed by NBC, And when that happened, the hype machine started already ramping up, because at that point it was already obvious that Roger Moore was out, that he was done with View to a Kill. And so the hype machine around the next James Bond gave the reruns of the quote unquote final season of Remington Steele an amazing bump in ratings, to the point where NBC is like, we've changed our mind. We're going to keep this guy, which completely and totally fucked him. The story was he was on his way to the big press release, and on the way out the door, he gets a call from NBC saying, we're bringing the show back, to which case he would have not been able to do Bond. So Timothy Dalton came in. Now, Timothy Dalton, I believe, was actually potentially a Bond possibility as far back as Diamonds Are Forever or Live and Let Die.
Yeah, I thought he was in the mix as maybe to take over for, or maybe even before what's his face, the last one,
Roger Moore.
Roger Moore.
Yeah, he was a friend of the Broccoli family. So, and he
something
had
about him feeling like he was too young, I think.
At that point in time, they're like, yeah, it's just not the direction we want to go to. But he is, but we'll call him up and see if he's available to do it. The story goes that he was working on a movie called Brenda Starr with Brooke Shields at the time, and he literally finished filming that movie, got on a plane, arrived wherever, I think it was the scene in Gibraltar for the opening of The Living Daylights, gets off the plane, the next morning he's James Bond. That's how quick that happened. And so one of the things that's kind of also very common in the older days was how new Bonds would get their movies, kind of their first movies given to them. The On Her Majesty's Secret Service would not have had one line in it if Sean Connery had been, and that would have been that never happened to the other guy. Right. Everything else was written as if he would have returned. Live and Let Die was written kind of generically. In fact, it was Guy Hamilton who told Roger Moore, you got to play this your way. You got to, it's just like, don't worry about what Sean Connery did. We'll figure out how to make it yours. That's part of the reason why it really didn't become his character until The Spy Who Loved Me 4 years later. Because those first two movies were written back to back and kind of generically for him. And they were also trying to figure out if he can be the kind of rough and tumble Bond like Connery, which he is not. So The Living Daylights was written kind of generically. There was some things that Dalton could do with it, but it was not really his movie. This one was his movie. He had gone back to the director, because he had directed all the ones in the 80s, John Glenn. And he's like, I really kind of want to take this more back to the Ian Fleming version of Bond. And they were like, yeah, you know what? You're not Roger Moore. You can play this however you want. Broccoli signs off on it. So yeah, we'll do it. We'll go that kind of harder edge for this character. And so that really kind of began shaping this movie. And so there were three elements from this movie that kind of play into what they ultimately do with the script. And that is, they borrow from Live and Let Die, which is the whole Felix Leiter being eaten by the shark and the note left with him that says he disagreed with something that ate him. That's straight from Live and Let Die's novel. Also, something else that came from the Live and Let Die novel that was not in Live and Let Die was in For Your Eyes Only, when Bond and the girl are tied together and they're drugged behind a boat. And basically, getting run along coral to be all cut up and shit. That
Right.
also came from Live and Let Die. So Live and Let Die, the movie, has two huge important scenes taken out of it and put into two other movies, or at least from the novel perspective. Then they borrowed. There's a short story that Fleming wrote called "The Hildebrand Rarity," where the Milton Crest character comes from that. Now he doesn't get blown up in that short story. He gets killed by having the Hildebrand Rarity, which was the name of a really, really like specific fish, shoved into his throat. So he dies horribly regardless, whether it's book or movie. But the big thing that they wanted to do was they wanted to strip away the typical Bond stuff, which was make him less reliant on those things that Q gives him. If you notice, everything that Q gives him either gets discharged very quickly or are not used at all in the grand scheme of things.
Oh, but this is the best Q movie in the whole series.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. I mean, he actually
Instead
gets
of
in
using Q's stuff, he uses Q.
He uses Q.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
great. You're a hell of
Yeah.
a field agent, Q.
Right. So, yeah, because like he gives him the plastic explosive, that he gives him the thing that will blow open Sanchez's glass that protects him, but that fails. Everything that he's given by Q ultimately kind of fails him. But what they decided to do instead was, okay, well, let's kind of make this a little bit more adult, in the sense that they're going to borrow from the Yojimbo story, where Bond's going to walk in and he's going to sow distrust into the villains, so that most of the people who die in this are killed by the villain himself. He's wiping out his own guys all over the place, and that's how Bond defeats him. Which is kind of interesting if you think about it, because they say that Sanchez has a whole army protecting him. Well, Bond just has to narrow down the numbers a different way.
He also narrows down the number of good guys at the same time.
Sure.
He's very reckless in this movie.
Yes. So he, yeah, I mean, and this is, and this is very much an Ian Fleming kind of style Bond, where Bond doesn't particularly love his job. He will do his job. He will use what he knows to get a job done, but he doesn't really have particular love for the job.
I have a question.
Okay.
In the Ian Fleming version of Bond, is Bond very hard of hearing?
No.
Because he's extremely, he's snuck up on so many times in this movie. You're like, Bond, come on, man. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, no, I just think that's just kind of ratcheting up tension.
He's also a much better shot at 100 yards on the back of a speeding boat than he is standing still at 50 feet.
Right.
Yeah. But so originally this movie was called License Revoked, but MGM and United Artists was like, yeah, no, nobody in America knows what the word revoked means. So, because they were saying to the director was like, I can't believe that you wouldn't be able to put together what revoked means, but whatever. So they just changed it to License to Kill.
That sounds like fabricated. For me, it seems like License to Kill just makes it sound more exciting.
I agree.
Until you realize he's lost his license to kill, you're thinking this is going to be a crazy action movie. Not that I don't know. It'd be weird if they said they won't understand it, but
well, there were original. I mean, the original clapper cards and all the original posters and everything do say License Revoked. And there was a book there was.
It just sounds a little too bureaucratic, doesn't it?
A little bit,
License Revoked.
I think the reasoning as to why they changed it might be fabricated. They won't understand revoked. I understand, obviously, fully that they did have it that way originally.
Yeah. So when they hired Robert Davi, they first of all, that's perfect. but what he ended up staying in character the entirety of his schedule.
boy.
That's not Robert Davi. I think that's just Robert Davi.
Well, it could be. I mean, could be. Yeah.
I bet that was insufferable.
Yeah.
Well, apparently people did have some fun with it when he would they would go to like these restaurants or these bars around Mexico, and he would be acting like Sanchez. And
Oh man,
they said that, yeah, it was kind of fun in those types of situations because he'd be like this hard ass, like demanding the best room or the best seat in the house or whatever. And it's, yeah, but funny though that because of that, it ended up that Benicio del Toro only hung out with Robert Davi during the filming too. Like they had like their little bad guys club.
That's hilarious.
I mean, those two together it's kind of amazing. It's like young Robert Davi.
Yeah.
It's really kind of wild.
Yeah. Yeah, Del Toro is pretty awesome in this. Like he is like he is a presence whenever he shows up in a in a scene, and Davi's already a presence, and then you bring in this like young whippersnapper who will fucking cut a guy's heart out the first time you see him.
Uh-huh.
They
Like,
chew more scenery than that shark chews legs.
Oh,
Yes.
God, they do. They
Yes.
do.
But anyway, yeah. So there's Robert Davi was one of the other things he did after he was cast was they were like, okay, well, we need to cast the women for this, for this movie. And apparently for Loopy, they ended up like having like a ton of women come in, and Robert Davi actually was reading lines as Bond for it. And I can't remember if it was John Glenn or if it was somebody else who was like, he really wasn't that bad as like reading the Bond lines. He really wasn't that bad. But the whole point, the reason why he was brought in was that it was really important to match up his kind of kept woman with him. And like when they got to Talisa Soto, he's like, this is supposed to be a character that I would be willing to kill for. She's the one. And she was cast at that spot, which, I mean, quite frankly, she is quite the looker, but
She's pretty.
yeah.
She's Katana in
Yes.
Mortal Kombat.
Yes. But more importantly, she was Vampirella in one movie too. She starred opposite Roger Daltrey. But anyway, so yeah, he was used for that as well. And I don't remember exactly what they said about hiring Carrie Lowell. She said that she got, sent to a casting call, and she was supposed to be like this, hanging out in tough bars and stuff, which is where we see her the first time, or technically the second time. And so she like goes out and buys like basically tries to look tough. And they're like, okay, come back with better clothes, which basically mirrors the whole, like Bond telling her to go get herself some decent clothing.
That's funny.
Yeah. And then Benicio del Toro went in. He wasn't happy with his read. So he left, and he said he walked out the door, went right back in. It's like, can I do that one more time? And then he nailed it after that. And they were like, yeah, he's the guy. But Del Toro will talk a lot about this movie. Like this was a big movie for him.
Oh, totally, it was. Yeah,
Did it break him?
it probably got him a lot of roles. Yeah,
Well, I
What
mean,
year was this?
89. But I mean, the character he plays in Usual Suspects is just a slightly toned down version of this guy, of Dario. So
Well, yeah, I mean, the Usual Suspects is the role that broke him.
Oh, sure.
But License to Kill, he doesn't get to Usual Suspects without License to Kill, probably. That's a very visible role.
yeah. But yeah, so there's some more that I have about the truck chase at the end of the movie. that is absolutely fucking bonkers. But
That's one of my
Save it for then.
That's
Yeah.
one of my favorite road action scenes in any movie. It is unreal.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff with that too. One thing is that this is not. This was originally going to be John Barry who did the music for this, but he was recuperating from throat surgery and wasn't going to be healed in time. But I think he was the one who recommended that Michael Kamen take over, that he would be the closest. Somebody determined he would be the closest match to John Barry, which is important for next week too, by the way.
I like the theme song to this one.
Oh yeah, the Gladys Knight song.
Knight. Yeah, this is a good one.
It is. It's a really good one. Very soulful in a lot of ways. I also like that it's bookended with some R&B classics, and you got like Patti LaBelle at the end too.
Yeah. This movie just kind of screams like that late 1980s to me.
Yeah.
The music, the action,
the opening scene,
kind of pushing the envelope of the violence a little bit, you know.
Yep. This was the first ever Bond that was rated PG-13.
Yeah.
And it received an adult certification in England.
Yeah, I imagine it did. That makes sense. Also, it's just got like that, you know, the world was like crazy with like cartels and shit in the late 80s. So it's got that going for it.
This is also the only movie that takes place in a fictional place.
Yeah, Isthmus. I looked it up and I was like, where is this Isthmus?
Nailing it.
And it doesn't exist.
No, but I think it's supposed to be Panama, but they didn't want to call it that.
Yeah.
Although,
I think it was that in the book, though. Isthmus.
Wow, this is not based on a book. It was a novelization written after the book or after the movie. So yeah, it was, all of it was. See, this is kind of one of those things, right? Where it's like, you know, this is ahead of its time in a way, because like 20 years later, it's like, good Lord, we can't say a country's a bad guy. Or got a problem. We need to say it's an organization or something, you know. But I think I
would have thought, you know, maybe more like Colombia, you know. Maybe.
Well, they say they do
definitely like a Pablo Escobar type villain.
Yeah, I mean they specifically say that Sanchez is Colombian, but everything takes place in Isthmus and Isthmus City. So I think that's supposed to be Panama.
That's just hard to say.
Yeah. I want you guys to keep saying Isthmus.
It's just really hard to say.
Isthmus. It makes me talk like Daffy Duck.
I know. It's like I don't have a list, but I do when I say that word.
Yeah. So they, it does. They do talk about him being Colombian in a couple of different ways. One of them is my favorite line after the credits, where he's being transported to jail, and somebody shouts out from the press, "Are you really Colombian?" It's like that guy. It's like, just ask questions, and that guy was like, "That's the only question I got."
Oh, I like this. I didn't realize he kind of based the concept of Sanchez off of Le Chiffre as sort of a dark mirror image of Bond. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yes. Davi was all in on this, and boy, oh boy, is he like, he's whole ass in this movie.
I do really like the elements of this where you have Bond actually being a spy, right? Yep. Where he is actually undercover. The people don't know who he is, but he's got that ticking clock, because once that boat arrives, they can all identify him, right? Yep. And that's a cool concept.
Well, not only that, but also Daria. There's two people who can identify him coming at two different instances.
He's not on the boat.
He's not on the boat. He is called in. He's called in later to that factory. By the way, that place.
We're going to talk about that factory.
So real quick, one behind the scenes thing about that location where Wayne Newton hangs out.
Bless your heart.
Yes.
Fucking Wayne Newton. I thought the first guy was Wayne Newton at first. The guy who dies at the church. I was like, that's Wayne Newton, isn't it? No, it's not. This is Wayne Newton.
So Wayne Newton's like little compound thing, that is a real place.
Oh, I'm sure. It looked really
It is. Now, here's the funny thing about it. It was built by a governor in Mexico as a gift to like the local Indians there in Mexico in a place that they would never go to.
Wow.
So they've never used it. So it was built with the idea of, hey, this is a community center for the indigenous people of the area, and they never used it. It's like, just okay, which screams to me cover for drug operations, but whatever.
Yeah. Like money laundering for sure. Yeah.
Well, you only launder money after
that place on paper. That place on paper costs like 10 times what it actually cost.
Yes.
That's how you launder money, Chuck. Yeah.
No, I knew that. I said yes.
By the way, this is also the second time we've seen Anthony Zerbe die in an incredibly horrific death. He was the evil admiral in Star Trek Insurrection that got his face stretched to death.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
So we've seen his face get stretched a couple of different ways.
He's got a stretchable face. His grandma was probably always like, give me those cheeks.
That is an incredible... Yeah, Robert Davi. Yeah, he probably did want to stretch his cheeks, right? That's an incredibly creative way to kill someone. Just want to say.
I mean, it is...
it's
quite
violent.
Sure
I understand the science behind it, but
what is the point of that room even?
So what he did was, that room is where they send in underwater things. What he's put into is
you're not credible if you're going to call it underwater things.
Well, no,
I don't believe you at all.
Okay, but like they had like that little probe that they would use, and then they like those. My understanding those is tanks,
it's a submergible. It's a submergible,
and then he pressurized it.
You pressurize it when you go underwater because here's what I think happened. And they pressurized him really quickly so that he would be able to go underwater, and then depressurized him instantly,
which like being thrown out into space would blow you up.
Worst case of the bends ever. Yeah.
Well, it would
but
be
if he exhaled the whole time,
all of the gases in his brain just exploded.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be like being tossed out of the space shuttle without a suit.
Yeah,
without your underwater things.
Without your underwater things.
More of an implosion.
Without your space things. You don't want to be thrown out there without those.
Well, it's what happened to it's what happened to Arnold Schwarzenegger in Total Recall when he was thrown out in Mars.
It happened to Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
No, well, he was
the
frozen.
Opposite of that though.
Well,
it's
kind
the opposite
of
of that though, because that's like a deep pressure. There's no, it's like a vacuum in space, but in Bond, it was more like he had been depressurized and then instantly repressurized. So that is like, I think it was an explosion rather than an implosion.
Yes. But yeah, so I mean the same kind of idea. You're changing pressure instantly.
Yes, instantly. Yeah.
And that's fucking violent. I mean, like that is...
It's kind of a shocking moment. It's like, wow, they went there.
Yeah.
They blew that guy's head up.
Yeah, I thought they'd cut away, like before the blood splatter on the window, but nope.
No, they're borrowing a book from the Gremlins movie. It's like, we're going to go for this PG-13. We're going to blow them up right there. So anyway, let's talk about the opening sequence here, because I love that Felix Leiter is so dedicated to his job that he's like, I'm about to get married, but I got to go bust this guy real quick.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? A quick question.
Hilarious.
Quick.
And they're in the ugliest suits.
Are we supposed to know these people? Are they all brand new people?
Felix Leiter's been around. In fact, that guy, David Hedison, played Felix Leiter in Live and Let Die.
Okay.
But Felix was also in Goldfinger. Goldfinger was the first time you saw him. He was in Thunderball, and I think he was in Diamonds. I think he was in Diamonds Are Forever too.
I'm bad with names.
But
it was a different actor, though.
Felix Leiter, different. Okay. Usually a different actor.
In Goldfinger,
Joe Don Baker was Felix Leiter in one of them, wasn't he? He wasn't.
No, he was Jack Wade. He was in the first two Brosnan movies.
The Felix Leiter character was brought back to the
Jeffrey Wright.
Craig movies with Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Felix Leiter was part of the license, or was part of the Casino Royale novel. He was the one who gets Bond back into the game.
But the other guy from Police Academy,
Starkey?
Yeah.
Oh, Sharky, yeah.
Yeah.
He was
Frank McRae.
Frank McRae. Now he
played for the Bears, didn't he?
I don't know.
Did he play professional football? I think he played professional football.
He's probably Hal McRae's dad. He's probably a baseball player.
I'm looking it up right now.
But Sharky was kind of a
defensive tackle for the Bears.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think Sharky was meant to be a kind of a callback to the. So again, this is another callback to Live and Let Die, the movie, because in Dr. No, Bond uses a guy who knows like the islands that they were going to go around and look for where Dr. No was. His son, Coral was the guy's name, and then Coral Jr. shows up in Live and Let Die. And Sharky's kind of that same character. He kind of knows the islands around the Caribbean and everything. Yeah. So I think it's kind of a callback to that, but I think in both of those, I think Coral died, and I think both Corals died. I could be wrong on Coral Jr., but anyway, it's kind of a callback to that type of character. And then, Felix Leiter would have been known, if for nothing, because I mean, he calls him Felix earlier. So it's like, you would know, if you knew kind of up. Yeah. If you were up on those, you would know. It's like, oh yeah, that's Bond's CIA best friend.
Okay. I'm just bad with names. I like piecing together, but yeah.
Yeah. So they were like, hey, Sanchez is over here, in the Bahamas. And it's like, we got the go ahead. We can go in and get him. And so he's like, all right. Well, also Grandel Bush Hawkins, he's been in a lot of things that we would know. Like he was in Lethal Weapon 2. He had a brief scene in The Exorcist 3. It's kind of funny. I mentioned Free Jack at one point. But he was the younger version of the black guy from Demolition Man.
Oh,
the old black guy in the future, but he played the younger version of him at the beginning of the movie. So yeah, he was in Brewster's Millions. He was Rudy in that.
Grandel Bush I've seen him everywhere.
Yep. He's been in a lot of things that we've seen. Like there's just like, seriously, like looking at his filmography, it's like, oh yeah, these are all the movies I watched in the 80s. So, especially The Color Purple. I watched that so many times.
You love that movie.
When I was a little kid. Yeah. Oh yeah. But no, so yeah, he's like, hey, we got to go get we can go get Sanchez. And he's like, and Bond's like, I'm going with you. And he's like, no, okay. He's like, he kind of, okay, you can come. And he's like, Sharky, go tell everybody to fuck off. And Sharky's like, okay.
Like, what am I going to tell everybody?
Yeah. Okay, it's like, just tell her to go driving around the block a few more times and let her dad bitch her out about it.
This beginning is absolutely ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. It is really,
let's go
really
fishing.
Goofy.
Oh yeah. So this is one of those rare Bond movies where all of the major actors are actually introduced in the opening sequence. The only one that's not there is Carrie Lowell. She shows up like 2 minutes later, but she, like everybody else, all of the other main characters are all there.
A little bit more than 2 minutes.
But, well, I mean, okay. I mean, Bond walks into a room after the wedding and she's there.
Wait. No.
She's there. She's getting the letter from Felix to give to Heller.
Oh, okay.
Because he's like, yeah, that's Pam Bouvier, and she's like, yeah, whatever, bye.
But yeah,
she's totally bitchy.
You don't see her again until the bar.
The bar, yeah.
Yeah. But
that's why he knows who she is when he gets there. Yeah.
And that's how we know who she is.
Yep.
So
basically everybody but Carrie Lowell is there, and she shows up just a couple minutes after the credits. That's kind of rare in a Bond movie. Most of the time you don't get, like next week's movie, you don't get the Denise Richards until halfway through the movie.
or the villain for like 45, kind of.
Kind of.
Right.
Kind
yeah.
of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of. We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things about that movie. But anyway, they go, and the first time you see Sanchez, I mean, he shows up right there to like kill her, kill Lupe's lover, and then whip her. To which Robert Davi said he got fan mail from sex creeps about how turned on they were by him whipping her. And I'm like, those people are not just creeps. Those people are sadists and probably murderers. Robert Davi, turn them in. It's like you don't get turned on by that.
Oh, I don't know. Some people do.
Well, yeah, those are called murderers and creeps. But anyway, and then Robert Davi was probably like, I'm kind of into this. But anyway.
So you're calling Robert Davi a murderer and a creep?
I don't know. He was in character the entire time, so I was probably into it at that time.
I can't introduce you, but I can find someone who can introduce you to this whole subculture of people you apparently do not know about.
He's completely unaware of the kink community.
No. I'm saying no.
They're all creeps. And
Are you talking about the malicious intent behind it and the unwanted approach of it?
Yes, I'm not talking about whipping somebody, because that's kink, and that's fine if it's an agreed upon consenting situation. This was not a
consensual non-consent.
This is not. Yes, this is not consensual. This is non-consensual non-consent.
I'm guessing
she is being
a double
whipped.
Negative. So
oh my god. So he is purposely punishing her to keep her as his girlfriend.
But people in these subcultures or kink groups often do like the missive and
but I mean,
pretend I don't want you to do this routine.
Okay.
And
yes.
And
that's
they're
probably what
also
they're into,
aware
is all
that
I'm saying.
movies aren't real.
Yes.
Okay.
I just don't want to alienate half of our fans who like Robert Davi and whips.
So one of our two fans.
Yeah. Dave.
Which one is Dennis? Okay.
I always do it.
Okay. Let me just say that when he talked about like getting this fan mail about how exciting that was, I feel as though
that would be weird to get fan mail about it.
About something when you are punishing somebody who's crying, who says no. It's like, I mean, this is not a consensual situation. I don't care how you're trying to frame this, Chuck. I don't care.
I just think it's funny.
Yes. Anyway, so Bond is told just to kind of stay back, but here's a gun. Hang back. And so he only jumps into action when he gets shot at, which he was going to jump into action regardless. I mean, they get on, Sanchez gets on a plane while everybody else gets arrested or detained. Bond meets the girl, and it's like, hey, are you okay? And she's like, leave me alone, get out of here. Fuck off, basically. Bond gets a lot of instant fuck offs from these women in this movie.
Unlike the next week's movie where he gets instant fucks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He does get one in this movie to fall like stupidly in love with him though. It's weird.
Oh, in this one? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that comes way out of left field.
Well, you get a little bit of excitement. You're on a boat that's out of gas. What else are you going to do? I mean, that's consent, right? Boat's out of gas.
As long as you ask first.
Exactly. There it is.
Yeah.
So basically, Sanchez takes off on a plane. Bond's like, we got to go get him. Let's go fishing. Now, one of the things that should not be overlooked
is them fishing a fucking plane out of the sky.
Well, yes, but Timothy Dalton was adamant that he be used in as many close stunts as possible, meaning, yes, he is hanging off of a helicopter at one point. Now, granted, it's only like 20 feet off the ground or whatever, the way it's shot, but that would have not been anywhere in the vocabulary of Roger Moore, especially in the 80s when he was like 400 years old. He's not being strapped to a helicopter. He might not even be in a helicopter, even if you think he's in a helicopter.
It's still kind of weird, though, how unimpressive the stunt is itself. Like, it just doesn't look that great.
It was actually, I mean, it's...
I feel like you'd see something like that in a Miami Vice episode around the same time.
Well, yeah. I mean, it is a product of its time, but it's like, it's, to actually do what they had to do where they landed the stuntman on an actual plane like that, like hundreds of, or what, a couple of thousand feet over the water or whatever, was actually super duper dangerous because any weight that you add to the back of a plane will send it into a tailspin instantly. Mm-hmm. So it's like, that was like, they had to count exactly how long they could stay there before the plane would be out of control at that point. So like the actual doing it is probably really the impressive thing.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, if you think one movie later in Goldeneye, Bond catching a plane out of midair, it's kind of a silly stunt, right? It's kind of like, oh, this is a James Bond movie. Take your brain out of your head.
It's not
and
even
put it in
that.
your popcorn bucket and move on.
Like, it doesn't register as exhilarating to me for some reason.
Nah. I mean, and
there were Bond sequences before this that were far more exhilarating.
Sure.
And there were Bond sequences after that were far more exhilarating. It maybe it's the tone of it. Maybe it's them in their fucking powder blue tuxedos.
It's not. Those aren't powder blue. Those are gray.
Are they like powder blue?
No, they're silver.
Whatever.
Did you accidentally watch Dumb and Dumber?
They look kind of powder bluish, but
no, they were silver,
gray or whatever.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it's
powder blue because it's dumb.
It's a little. Yeah, I mean, it's a cheeky Bond thing. You know, it's like that's the real stunts come later with the truck.
Sure.
There's a lot of stuff going on with those trucks at the end.
And then, of course, we've got the parachute down
into the wedding,
which is amusing. Yes.
So it's more dumb. It's more
amusing, but it's amusing.
I mean, it's amusing to the sense that, oh, okay, so we've got a Bond thing that we kind of expect, kind of silly, kind of cheeky, whatever, and then the rest of the movie is not really that cheeky.
No.
Later on. I mean, because it's a lot darker, typically.
We've already had somebody fed to a shark at this point.
No, not yet.
Haven't we?
No, we had a guy's heart ripped out.
No, because he's the guy who's on the helicopter.
He's got to escape first, before he starts feeding people to sharks.
Right.
And the guy he's feeding to a shark is on the helicopter.
Yeah.
Right.
He's the one going to his wedding.
Well, I thought he feeds two people to a shark.
No.
Lighter and someone else.
No.
Buddy.
Bond feeds somebody to a shark.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
And
your buddy Ed.
Ed Killiver. Yeah.
Killiver.
Do you know who Ed Killifer is?
I know exactly who Ed Killiver is.
Of course. Tell us.
Skill, man.
Yes.
Big Ed. It's Big Ed. Big Ed Killiver.
Is he Ed in everything?
I know, right?
Because he's Ed in that movie, too, where he's the evil parent. I can't remember. Was it People Under the Stairs?
People Under the Stairs.
Ed in People Under the Stairs also?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, what's interesting...
That would definitely be capitalizing on his character from Twin Peaks then.
Sure.
But
I mean, his wife is with him in it.
Exactly, Nadine. Yeah.
Well, hey, speaking of...
I'm surprised they didn't put an eye patch on her character in People Under the Stairs. Might as well.
Yeah.
Because we know
Everett McGill is.
We know who his wife is in People Under the Stairs, right? Yeah. Right, Jason?
She is also in Twin Peaks.
Yes.
Nadine Hurley. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what else has she done that's important to me?
I'm trying to think.
Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Close.
Next Generation?
Sort of.
Picard.
No. She's the Borg Queen.
Oh.
Is she really?
Alice Krieg.
Wait a minute.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Oh, wait a
By the
minute. No,
way,
wait.
I
No,
don't
no,
think
no, no,
that's
no, 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 no.
right.
No, I'm thinking of, never mind. I'm thinking of I get People Under the Stairs. For some reason, I get the cast of People Under the Stairs mixed up with Sleepwalkers.
Oh,
She's the mom in Sleepwalkers.
Yes.
She's the Catwoman in Sleepwalkers. Yeah, okay. Sorry. For whatever reason, I always think that she and Maidkin Amick are in People Under the Stairs. And no, it's that lady that you were talking about. And
Wendy Rogue
and
is the dean.
yes,
Yeah.
and AJ Langer's in People Under the Stairs.
Yes.
There's my mix up. Sorry.
And AJ Langer was also in My So-Called Life. That's when I first saw her.
and by
She
the
was
way,
also she was the president's daughter in Escape from LA.
She sure shit was.
just to close the loop on old Everett McGill, his name was Eldon, not Ed, in the People Under the Stairs.
Okay.
But close
So
enough.
that's close, man. That is close.
That's pretty close.
That's close enough.
Well, he was also in Dune. David Lynch's Dune. Everett McGill was.
That makes sense.
Oh yeah, he was the one who's like, "We've got worm sign." What's the big line that he says in that? Like you've never seen before, or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, he was a Freeman.
yeah.
Yeah.
Stilgar was he played in that.
By the way,
So
we're
anyway,
not even past the opening.
I
of this
know.
movie yet.
So anyway, so they capture him, and they we get the Bond song, good one. I mean, yes, it's Gladys Knight. Yeah, Gladys Knight's good stuff. I will listen to anything she's got going on. But then, so Sanchez is basically like, he's so cocky and confident. He's like, I'll give anybody $2 million to spring me. And you think that he's actually talking to Grandel Bush, but Killefer is the one who takes it.
Yeah.
And so he like helps him escape by running it off the bridge. And, some of Sanchez's goons come up and help them swim off, which the goons ultimately send them to Anthony Zerbe's Milton Crest boat. That's where they're.
Yeah, I think they're Milton Crest people.
Milton Crest people, because they're going to take them back to where where Crest's business is, where he quote unquote genetically feeds maggots, apparently with cocaine, to solve world hunger. That's his whole line.
They're just hiding the cocaine under the maggots.
I know, but those
I don't want to mislead the people.
I know, but the maggots could get into that cocaine.
They might could.
They might could. Well, apparently they are terrible maggots, because I think they probably ate that one guy.
They're really big. They're really big.
They're pretty big.
Yeah, they're like grubworm maggots.
Yeah, they're big. So anyway, so they meanwhile, Felix has gotten married to Priscilla Barnes, who, I mean, she was on Three's Company. For a little bit. Yep. She was after
Suzanne Summers.
That's correct.
I know my Three's Company brunch.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Here's another mention of, Bond having been married before.
Yeah.
Again, we are,
because she wants to give him the bouquet or the garter.
No, the garter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm out of here. Yeah.
Is that like is that your indication in a Bond movie that this one's serious? Like whenever they
kind of, but they do kind of reference it sort of next week, and it's not a serious movie next week. I mean, I will seriously defend next week's movie, but it is not as serious.
I think it's more serious than this one portrays itself, honestly. But the tone or the topic of this one is definitely more serious.
I think next one is a little more tragic in some ways than this.
They do something with a different character other than Bond.
This one just has a
week.
harder edge, I think, because of the violence.
Yeah, and Bond acting more in revenge than a mission.
Yeah, it's like a revenge flick, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think it's in any way a very serious movie.
I would label it as in the realm of how serious a Bond movie can potentially get. I mean, again, Bond movies, like I've said before this month, it's like you can only compare the Bond movies against each other. It's if you try to compare them next to other movies, it doesn't really, you know, like they almost are kind of, it's, I can only ever compare two Bond movies or one Bond movie against the rest of the series or whatever. It's hard for me to say, okay, well, how can I compare this movie to?
I mean, this movie has Wayne Newton say "bless your heart"
Right,
half a dozen times.
but I mean, but at the same,
and every time is like a different connotation, and it's hilarious.
But at the same time, though, it's like if you look at the Bond character himself, those scenes that he is in are far more serious than the other scenes that he's not really directly involved in.
He's not a very humorous Bond.
Not especially, no.
No, he's not good, like I said on the top. He's not good with the innuendo. He doesn't really have like the one-liners. I think there's maybe a couple and they're pretty clunky.
Well, he tells one guy to piss off. Yeah. He's like, I've had enough. You piss off.
Like, he doesn't seem to be enjoying his job like the other Bonds do.
Right. Yeah. Which is
and all of the trappings that come with it.
Yeah.
The only time I think he does is in the casino scene with Carrie Lowell, right?
Oh yeah. Well, because he's doing his Bond thing.
He's enjoying himself playing blackjack and yeah.
Well, yeah, and he is
a martini and all of that.
He is purposely also, as the one guy says, kind of betting like an asshole. He's like purposely wanting to be noticed.
He's antagonizing.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is having a little bit of fun in that moment. But yeah, the rest of the movie, except for making out with the bride, you know, he's that first part and that scene where he's playing blackjack. The rest of it, until he decides to take a jump off of a ledge and into a pool at the very end, he's very dour in this.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's because his friend just got fed to a shark. But
that is true. And I would be dour if
it'd be weird if he was cracking jokes on this mission when he's hanging around with a bunch of people that he wants dead.
Well,
exactly.
There's kind of like a throwaway moment towards the end of this movie with Felix Leiter, where he calls up Felix, and Felix is like, "That's great! I'm almost out of the hospital." And I'm just like, "Yeah, but your fiance is fucking dead, dude."
Yep. And then
he's acting all jolly and excited. It's so fucking weird.
Yeah, it is.
Must have been the pain meds.
I told you, it's totally weird movie.
That is something where it's like, it's kind of fun. Like I kind of got the impression, and maybe this is me just kind of the many, many times I've seen this movie, like in that earlier scene where he's, doing his wedding and stuff. It's like, it does in a sort of way kind of feel like this ain't Felix's first wedding. Like this isn't his first wife.
He's like twice her age.
Are you suggesting that he doesn't give a fuck that his wife is dead?
Well, no, I'm just saying that he's been through it a few times, maybe.
So you think all his wives die and he's just used to it?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe it just comes with the territory.
That's interesting. Yeah. I'm learning a lot about your psyche today.
Maybe she was rich. Maybe she was super duper rich, and he's like, "Hey."
I feel like she was way more into Bond than she was
100%.
Yeah.
Well, okay, if you have the choice between James Bond and Felix Leiter, you're not picking Felix Leiter.
The reason that they put her in this movie is so we knew she was in Three's company.
Yeah.
Just the reversal.
Connect the dots though. Like Bond wasn't just a roommate to them.
And then Sanchez said, "I'm going to come and knock on your door.
Come and knock on my door. We'll be waiting for you.
Going to get you on your bed.
Send you on a honeymoon." So basically, later that night, Bond takes off and he's like, "I don't want the garter. No, I'm not getting married anymore. That's not me." And she's like,
but he gets a lighter.
He does get a lighter.
Too much.
Right, which is you have Chekhov's
lighter.
Chekhov's lighter. You have Chekhov's picture frame. There was something else that I noticed too in this that was like, Chekhov's electric eel.
Yeah, I don't think electric eels work like that, but that was pretty fun.
I don't care. All of my life since July 1989, I've thought better not get in
electric
a
eels
tank
work
with
like that.
yeah.
Which is weird. Like you had mentioned this earlier, because oftentimes the Chekhov's gun in a Bond movie is a cue
Yeah.
thing that he's given him.
Not this time.
Right? Like this is
Right.
going to come into use later to save the day or whatever.
Yes,
But in this
Q's
movie,
gadget.
the Chekhov's items are not
Right.
that.
Yeah, and the number one thing is the lighter.
For sure.
That causes an explosion that almost feels like that was a bit more than they expected on set that day.
It feels like that's the last time I saw Robert Davi.
Yeah, he's dead. He's dead.
It reminds me of the gas station explosion in RoboCop.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
I
like,
thought you were
no.
I was like, oh shit, I think we overdid it.
I thought you were going to say next of kin, and I was going to say we had Chekhov's.
Oh, yeah,
in that
yeah.
one.
Oh yeah. No, that one got out of control too. Yeah.
Yeah.
When explosions go wrong.
Yeah.
When they explode too much.
So after Bond leaves, they go into their, they're going to go into their what do they call that? Their
Hideout layer
their bedroom. What do they call it? Their
abode,
whatever. And they're going to do their post wedding thing.
their honeymoon suite.
Yes, whatever. Yeah, sure. and Dario and some other goons are waiting there for them.
Yes,
And they basically they kill her and apparently shove one of Sharky's fishing lures right into her chest.
they rape and kill her. Yeah,
Yeah, and then they take Sanchez, or they take Leiter to Sanchez. To which then Sanchez realizes, like, oh, that fucking Killifer. He's got, he sold us out, and he's like, hey, sorry, buddy, $2 million is a heck of a lot of dough.
A lot of dough.
Yeah, and it's like, wow, he doesn't even give a fuck. He doesn't give a fuck at all.
His last name is Killifer.
Right.
anyone can be bought, Jeff.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what Sanchez has taught me. And so they throw that's when they put Felix on a hook, and they put him into the shark tank.
That's actually really cool, like counterbalancing the weight
Yeah.
of the cow carcass or whatever it is. So
Yep.
when the shark eats it, he becomes heavier and goes in the water. I'm like, damn, this is brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
It really is. And he's like, yeah, I'll see you in hell. And he's like, no, but today is the first day of the rest of your life. Which I always wondered why he said that, but then I realized over time, it's like, oh no, that's because he doesn't want to kill him. He pulls him up.
Line on purpose.
Torture him.
He tortures him. Yeah, it's to send a message. And yeah, because I mean, which if I were Killifer, I would be like,
you're lost the rest of your life.
yeah. I mean, if I were Killifer, I'd be like, why did you have me come out here? That's not a good idea. He can say, hey, that guy is a motherfucker, but whatever. Anyway, beside the point. So Bond goes to the airport the next morning, and there's police all around. He asks the lady at the counter, it's like, hey, what's going on? And the lady, which post 9/11, this shit wouldn't have happened. She says, oh yeah, some big drug dealer just escaped or something. Anyway, here's your ticket, and he's gone. Like, he's like, oh shit, I know what that means. Bond using his brain noodles. And so he goes back to Felix's place. He finds Felix. He gets, the ambulance over there to take him to the hospital. And at this point forward, Bond is like, I'm going to get those motherfuckers. Pretty much. I mean, revenge is on.
By hook or by shark, he's gonna
get those motherfuckers.
Get them. Yeah.
And maybe by massive explosion.
By laboratory chemical fire.
Yeah. So then he and Sharky start kind of going around trying to figure out what's going on. That's when they go to Crest's place, where Bond notices that Felix's boutonniere from his wedding tux is on the floor, his little carnation. He's like, these motherfuckers, this is where the shark is. Because he even was talking to Crest, and like, Crest is Anthony Zerbe can never be a good guy in any movie. He is suspect as fuck. Like he's like he doesn't like. He won't tell him his name. He won't say anything. He just wants to kick him out. He's like, yeah, we don't have sharks anymore. There's a fucking thing over there that says Shark Hunter. You dumb fuck. You know.
Oh, that's for sale.
Oh, okay, sure. I'll be back around later, Mister. Yeah, goodbye. Okay, Mister. Goodbye. Yeah. So then that's when he kind of sneaks in later with Sharky, and he uses the hook to pull the guy into the electric eel thing. He digs around in the maggot drawer and finds cocaine. And the maggots are like all like undulating and everything. It's gross.
They're all maggoty.
They're maggoty, yeah.
Yeah.
And like the guy comes up, it's like, all right, buddy, get your hands out of there. Or he's like, can I get my hands out of here? And he's like, yeah. And he throws some maggots in his face. That's good. That's always good. And he dumps them in there. Tells him Bond. Yeah. He throws him into the maggot drawer and is like, bon appetit. Like, fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. Get that guy. But then Killiford comes out. He's like, oh, good buddy. Get over there by the trap door. And Sharky comes to save the day.
Sharky?
Yeah, he does because he comes up through the secret port in the floor, knocks Killiford over, causing him to basically like nearly fall in. So he hangs onto the chain, and then Bond's like, "Here, you earned this money.
You earned this money."
So Sharky is responsible for Killiford getting killed by a shark.
Yes.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Good deduction there. And but he also has the best line of that scene too. He's like, "Oh, what a terrible waste of money." Yeah, get that money.
Anthony Zerbe is who Christopher Walken delivers the classic line from the Dead Zone 2, or 2 in the Dead Zone. The ice is gonna break.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Zerbe.
Is this our third Zerbs?
Yeah, I think so. Because Insurrection, I think it's our third Zerbe. I was also just seeing he played Toussaint in Papillon, the Leper King.
He also played Sutherland in See No Evil, Hear No Evil.
Oh yeah, that would be fun. We should do some of those old
Wilder Pryor movies.
Pryor movies. Yeah, that'd be fun.
I'm into that.
Oh my god, I forgot that he was in the Matrix sequels. Ugh.
Was there or wasn't there a woman? Was he a woman?
Oh, he was also in the Omega Man. So yeah, it was fourth time around. Yeah, he was the main bad guy in Omega Man. That was on Monster Monday. So there you go. Anyway, so he so he gets dumped in there, and the next day Bond gets summoned to see M. And M's like, "You're supposed to be in Istanbul. What the fuck?" He's like, "Nah, that's next week. Next week I'll be in Istanbul.
This week I'm in Constantinople." Sorry. Got him.
And he's like, "Yeah, but I'm not done here yet. My buddy's like, he's stuck his neck out for me many times. We're just not gonna let this happen." And he's like, "That's not our job. Your job is to go do that." And he's like, "All right, fuck you. I quit." And so that's when, I was like, "All right, well, your license to kill has been revoked."
And it takes his piece too.
And nobody in America understood what that meant.
Nope. But
license is revoked.
But I do
like what?
What does that mean? What does that mean? He can kill more?
The funny thing is that
so stupid.
We're the dumbest people on earth. Go kill people, Bond.
Wait, that's what they told me when I got a DUI.
They
was Bond
mildly
drunk?
chucking at us.
Bond must be
annoyingly chuckling. Go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead.
Well, you're the one who's like, we barely got past. We're still in the first act. We're an hour and 5 minutes into this episode.
We gotta call that out. Like, if they're gonna use it in the movie, then and they don't think we'll understand it. Like,
well,
it's just
they
funny
probably
to me.
they probably would have been like, just some fancy British people saying
Context clues, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but anyway, so they are at the Hemingway house, which is like loaded with cats, which is kind of cool.
Yes. Florida Keys Hemingway House.
Yep, and then
Always
he's
wanted to go to there.
and he and of course he's like, well, this is a farewell to arms, and then he like fucking kicks that one guy in the face and takes off. And they're gonna like assassinate him right there on the spot. And M's like, no, maybe not. Maybe don't.
Maybe not. He's the best of us. I'd never tell him.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There's
We
not
know that's what she's thinking.
exactly. Yeah, never tell him. So at this point, he knows he needs to get onto the wave crest. The best way to do that which is the boat that Milton Crest has. He figures all the goods are on there. And it's the best way to do that is to hide under a manta ray.
Oh my God, that suit is so stupendous. It's so funny. Sorry. It's just funny.
I mean, it is a real manta ray that he's under.
No.
Yes, it swims away.
He's wearing a suit.
No, he's swimming under a manta ray. Because he pushes it off and it swims away.
Oh, I thought he just took it off and it floated away.
No, he's just swimming under a manta ray.
Meanwhile, right. I don't remember it at all. So there we go. I can't break the tie.
I mean, in my notes, I wrote the manta ray suit is hilarious. So I got to go back to that. But I believe you, Jeff. You've seen it enough times.
So yeah, he uses that to basically come up through the bottom of the wave crest, which he does a lot in this movie. He uses the bottom of that wave crest more than he uses women in this movie. Yeah. So he comes up and he eventually finds Loopy, who is staying in Crest's room, and Crest is drunk and hitting on her. Which, dude, you saw what happened to the dude in the Bahamas. It's like, are you seriously? You're going to go for this? You're going to try?
Can do.
So he basically he goes in and he talks to her, and it's like, in the course of this, Crest men have found Sharky and have killed him, and this just doubly pisses off Bond. Like, Bond is now beyond being consoled. He's like, he's going to kill every one of these motherfuckers one way or another.
Right.
And the first guy gets it real bad with a fucking harpoon. Compliments of Sharky.
Yeah.
And so this starts the whole thing where, like, he then goes into the water to get the guy's scuba gear, and he gets they start going after him, and something really important here is because they are sending some money out to a plane in exchange for some cocaine that's going to be dealt in, it's going to be dealt off in the United States.
Right.
So Bond, first of all, he cuts up all the coke, ruins that. And he has to then get away from all of the other scuba guys. Chuck, seems like you want to say something.
I'm trying not to belabor this, but when you say he cuts up all the coke, it sounds like he's going to serve it to everybody.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
No, no, he's just taking like a classic like scuba guy's knife.
It.
Yeah, he's knifing it, and it's those fish in that part of that ocean there is going to be.
If that manta ray is still around, it is like cocaine ray.
Make that movie. Tie it to this one. That'd be great.
So Ray Liotta.
Right.
God damn.
Cocaine Ray Liotta.
Oh my God. Oh, that might be your best one yet, Jason.
Hey, I'll take it.
So yeah,
expensive at the expense of a dead man.
Yeah, jeez.
So they so he ends up getting he ends up harpooning the seaplane that's taken off with the money, and he kind of what do they call it, barefoot water skis up to the plane.
Yeah.
And I do like that, like the one guy like looks out the window is like, hey, there's a guy out here.
Yeah.
And then like Bond like goes over to the other leg of the plane and like comes in through the little hatch, through the little cargo hatch. And fucking sends that guy out by just detaching the door of the plane.
He just sends him out with the door.
With the door. Yeah, that guy's dead. That guy is mega dead.
Yep. Forgot he lost his license to kill.
Yep. Doesn't matter. He's on a murder spree at this point.
Yep.
Yeah, he flat out murders the one guy just for making a joke about Sharky.
Yeah.
So yeah, Bond is kind of like Sanchez in this movie in the sense that it's like he will fucking murder a guy.
Yeah.
So then he ends up sending the other guy out of the plane, and he realizes he's got a shit ton of money. And that kind of brings a smile to Bond's face. He's like, hey, I got a shit ton of money now. Off to the blackjack tables. Smash cut to him at the blackjack table. That would have been my edit.
He's actually really smart with this money. What he does with it is like one of the smartest Bond things I've seen Bond do.
Well, yeah, he's got to make the impression, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean he finds that, so he ends up meeting with Pam, which is Carrie Lowell, at the Roughneck bar, which, by the way,
some guy tries to kill him with a Marlin.
Yeah, but I do like that she just walks into a bar with a fucking gigantic shotgun and just hides it under the table. Yeah. That's great. That's just great.
Yep.
Love it. But yeah, so Dario comes in at this point, and another guy, or with like a couple of other goons, and so Bond's got to fight them off. But that girl that's dancing in the little dance thing, she just keeps going.
It's really funny the way she looks down at everything that's happening and then keeps going.
Yeah. So but yeah, you're right. One of those guys tries to spear Bond with a Marlin, but they eventually escape. But they've messed up Bond's boat and they run out of gas. And Bond and Pam are just gonna, I guess, have sex. I mean, that's, like I said, that's what you do, right?
Yeah.
Just if you get into a boat and the boat runs out of gas and you're with a lady, both of you know now that this is part of the deal, and you gotta do the sex.
Yeah. Do you know that Timothy Dalton, waiter, is that who's the Bond in this one? Yeah. He received a lot of letters about boat sex after this movie.
I bet. It's pretty kinky. Yeah.
Especially the bottoms to boats.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The things he did to them. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Oh, yeah. The bottoms came out in force. It's like, man, the way you went into that boat. Oh. Anyway. So basically she's important because she is the only one of Felix's informants that's still alive. Yes. But she also, being an ex-army pilot, knows how to get into Isthmus City and then where to go and what's going on there. And she knows a lot about Sanchez's operation.
Yes. So
he's like, okay, well, if you get a plane, I will pay for all of the stuff that we need to pay off everybody at the airports and everything. We'll get in there. And then, and it's at that point, it's like, get me there and then you can leave. I'll make it worth your while. And this is when, they get down there and he like has her sign for everything. It's like, oh, this is my personal secretary, which it is kind of funny. He names her Kennedy because of Jacqueline Bouvier, Jacqueline Kennedy.
Oh, yeah. I didn't.
Anyway, so, but then she's like, well, why can't you be my assistant? And he just laughs at her. It's like, ha. Yeah, no. It's south of the border. It's a man's world.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's like, get out of here. Tell me what bank that Sanchez ran. And it's like the biggest one in the, the biggest one in town, basically, is of course. So he's like, "All right, if you're going to stick around, you got to go clean yourself. You got to look the part. Like, come on now, we're spies now."
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, technically, I'm not a spy anymore, but
there's some Kelly McGillis Top Gun shit going on here a little bit.
What? Like how so?
Like, I don't know if you've. What is the movie called, Jason? Sleep With Me, where Quentin Tarantino explains the whole thing about
the gay subtext of Top Gun. Is that right?
Yeah, there's like her getting her hair cut short and dressing in a suit and all that, and Bond being like, "Whoa, hey,
hey now."
Yeah.
That is ultra Carrie Lowell status at that point. Like at that point, I would think it's like that is what a wife should look like.
Oh,
in my world. Like, no, I mean, like, but like, you know, like
she was married to Richard Gere, so Richard Gere would agree, I guess.
Yeah.
You should move to South America, Jeff.
No. I'm just saying.
So in addition to an affinity for gerbils, you have two things in common with Richard Gere.
Oh my god! I never owned a gerbil.
This is our wackiest episode.
Yeah. No, what I'm just saying is like when I was a little kid, it's like, wow, she looks so much more mature and so much more. You know, it's like that is what I would.
To Griffin Dunn too. Huh.
Yeah.
There is a noticeable transformation.
Yeah, and it's like that is something I could dig. I can get into that. I can get into that.
She was in an not early for her Albert Pune movie called Down Twisted. It's kind of a fun movie.
She was in The Guardian.
She was in Dangerously Close also. She cut her teeth in acting with Albert Pune.
Huh.
Pretty wild. It makes sense because she's not a very good actor. She's really not.
She spent a long time on Law and Order.
Really?
Or she's at least a couple of seasons. She was the assistant DA to Sam Waterston's character, or one.
Oh yeah,
like a prosecutor in his office. Yeah.
She's fine though. She's fine in this, but she's not super talented.
Lupe is much better.
Lupe, yeah. She's a legitimate actor. Yeah. I agree. But yeah, she's good to look at. Definitely. She's got those bright big eyes, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's
got legs for days too. Uh-huh.
She looks sitcom-y instead of like drama. Kind of. I don't know how to explain this.
All right. It's something about the way this movie looks is unique in the franchise for me.
Yeah.
Like it has a very bright sheen to it that feels almost like a really good episode of television, right?
Miami Vice.
It doesn't, like almost like a Miami Vice episode. It's very bright, it's very clean, it's shot very competently, but it never feels overly cinematic, right?
No, I can kind of see, and I think, to be honest with
this
you,
looks gorgeous in UHD. Like, holy fuck!
Yeah, I mean,
it pops. This movie really does pop, but it never feels like it's got that grit.
You know, the funny thing is, like in this era, like the late '80s and early '90s, almost anything that's shot like in Florida, the Caribbean area, Central America, I think all look the same. And I don't know if it's that I'm trying to pair whatever the other thing is I'm watching to this or what, but like I think it's just the region. Like when you get into like when you get down into the second and third acts, there's a lot of orange in this movie. Like, you know, it's very bright, it's very sunny, there's a desert, there's, you know, it's like it's not it makes it all seem brighter. I think.
And I'm not even knocking it.
Yeah, because there are a couple of shots at night that are beautiful, like in the boat.
I think it looks gorgeous. It just doesn't look like most Bond movies, though. It really doesn't.
I would almost say that next week's kind of looked
Brosnans.
No, but I would say that there are moments in the next week's movie that look like it belongs in this movie too. Like the stuff in Azerbaijan, in Baku, you know, kind of starts to look and feel a little bit like this movie.
Alec Mills was the DP on this.
Yeah, he did a ton of Bond movies, I
He
think.
did Moonraker.
Yeah.
He was camera and electrical department.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody who you see worked on a Bond movie worked on another Bond movie.
Oh, he did.
You don't just do one.
He worked on in the camera department for a lot
Except
of
for George Lazenby.
Well, yeah, he's the one who got left out. Yeah, but no, like there were a couple of
his might have been his first Bond movie shot though. It was, yeah.
Yeah. The scene when they're out of gas on the water and like it looks like it's just about to become dawn.
Daylights too, sorry.
Yeah. But like it like dawn is coming and you can kind of see it in the sky. That's a great shot there on the water. And I always liked the setting, at least, of the final scene of the movie where they're having like that, hey, we won, everybody's happy moment.
Yeah.
I do like that. And then how it pans across like that coastal city. I do like how that looks.
There's something I thought that like that film stock of the late 80s to early 90s though.
Yeah, it's weird.
Just, there's the cleanness to it.
Yeah.
And that was a point in time where they were preserving film in a way, right? Like they were very meticulous about how it was stored. Like it just looks so good.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know.
So but we've kind of already gotten into like how Bond is now like, he goes to the, he deposits the money in the bank, and then he discovers that, the guy who's the chairman of the board of the bank, Sanchez, also owns the town's casino, which that seems fishy. But I mean, like even Pam points it out. It's like, that's convenient. So Bond basically is now setting the breadcrumbs to get noticed. He brings in $5 million in cash. He sets up a $2 million line of credit at the casino. He wants to go to the casino, and he is now, like he's betting like a real jerk off, and he's wanting to get noticed. And where it really starts to get noticed is when he starts winning a ton. Like everything hits at one point. And it is, I do like Carrie Lowell in that scene, because like when he wins the one big hand where he's like doubled down and split on everything, and the other guy, right. And she's like so giddy for him, but he's just like even, like he's not reacting to it at all. Because he's at work, it's like he's got to get noticed. And so this gets him noticed. So Sanchez sends Lupe down there, and she goes down there, and that is a pretty good pan up from her shuffling up to her cleavage and up to her face. But like Bond, like immediately like, oh shit. It's like maybe I've gone one step too far here now.
No, this is what he wanted.
Well, but he's surprised to see her. Like he doesn't expect her to be the one that sent her, which worries him a little bit because they've had the interactions before. I think he is a little bit worried because they've had two now run-ins before, and what that could possibly mean. But yeah, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like she warns him after he asks, like, you're gonna lose, but only a little bit. And he's like, maybe I should stop playing.
Yep.
She's like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
You're gonna die if you stay. And he's like, take me to him now. And they go to him.
Yep. And because like he sends Pam off to get him a martini. And so he goes and he goes to talk to Sanchez, and he basically just flat out tells him, it's like, I'm kind of in between jobs right now. I'm a problem eliminator. Somebody like you might be in use for somebody like me. And he's trying he's trying to place the seeds of, you've got a problem internally. Like he really is able to do it when he fails to assassinate him.
Yeah.
But he is positioning himself.
necessarily yet.
But he is positioning himself to say, hey, you could really use me around. He's like, it's like, I'm sure I can find employment here. And like he uses that as a dig on Sanchez's guys.
Oh yeah, he's like, you have to prove you're better than the other people, and he's like, oh, that wouldn't be.
That won't be a problem. Yeah, I mean, we know that because he's fucking James Bond. All these guys are going to be.
But in reality, what he's doing is casing his office to see how he can get.
He does, and he does spot the armor-plated glass.
Yeah,
which is a problem because he doesn't have the tools for the trade. In fact, when he leaves that meeting, he meets up with Pam. He's like, yeah, he's sitting behind 3 inches of armored glass. I'd need a tank to get through it. Well, good news, his uncle has arrived.
Yeah.
They get back to the hotel, and they're like, yeah, we put him in your room. And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to need it. By the way, Sanchez has taken Bond's gun and passport. He's like, I'm going to hold on to these things. I'll talk to you in a few days. So Bond has to get a gun from. By the way, Carrie Lowell is like armed to the teeth. She's got a gun in her garter belt. She's got a gun in her purse. Like she doesn't go anywhere without at least 3 guns. I don't think.
Probably.
I'd like to find out where the third one is. Anyway. Jason's shaking his head.
I'm sorry, I just went down a deep rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that.
Like I'm reading about fucking like competing Christopher Columbus movies and the fact that like half the cast of this movie was attached to one of them.
Yeah, the not 1490, not the Ridley Scott
the
one.
Discovery, because John Glenn directed it.
Yep,
and it was shot by the same guy who shot this. It has Robert Davi, Benicio del Toro in it. Dalton left the project when the original director, George Cosmatos, left. This is a crazy story. It's like crazy shit. And like Ridley Scott got sued because he left this project to make his own Columbus movie, 1492, Conquest of Paradise. Both of them bombed.
Yeah.
And they both came out at like the same time because they wanted to get out for the 500th anniversary. Man. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
That's what I'm shaking my head at.
So he like, barges into his room and Q is there and he's like, what the hell are you doing here? It's like, well, Moneypenny thought you might need some help.
Yeah.
And it's like, here's a bag of whatever junk I had lying around, because if you look at the bag, it's all junk.
It is like almost like a carpet bag.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Mary Poppins showed up with her bag of tricks.
And Chuck, there's something here that you especially liked.
Oh yeah, this is so out of left field too, with the tone of the movie. She uses the X-ray camera. Well,
it's a Polaroid.
It's a laser.
Yeah, this is weird.
That like burns through everything it touches, but also takes a picture, which is an X-ray Polaroid.
Which is funny because even
X-rayed the photo too.
In the photo in the background. Yeah, it's great. It's great.
It's so stupid, just very weird.
No, but that's fine. It's fine.
Don't use the flash. Don't use the flash.
I mean, again,
well,
Bond
that's a
is
connection
in its own world.
That's a connection in next week a little bit too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then they, so they basically he's like, all right, well, here's the deal. I brought you some plastic explosives. And he's like, that's great because I could really use some of that. And here's a gun that looks like a camera, but it's going to be palm. It's for you only. Now that I've programmed it for your palm print.
For your palm only.
Yes, exactly. That was the aborted title. Yeah, the aborted third movie for Timothy Dalton. And so he's like, okay, well, he goes back to Sanchez's office and uses. By the way, there is one little joke in this scene when he shows back up at Sanchez's place. He's rappelling down to get to the window and he launches himself off of the statue's naked boob.
Yeah.
I mean, like he honks the boob. Anyway, he gets there, he puts down the plastic, and he's going to go across the street because he also noticed that there's like a construction thing going on across the way. And he's going to blow the window and he's going to shoot Sanchez. Sanchez is meeting with a bunch of Asian people to distribute cocaine. And the little squirrely accountant guy cracks me up every time. He is like everything. He's the numbers guy, right? He's the guy who, like, when they were watching Pastor Joe's like sermon on TV, that's how they release like what kilos would cost, to.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, and so like he's all about like the money. Well, he's they're talking about this deal. There's one very specific guy that keeps getting looked at, and it's Kwang, played by Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa. He's been in a ton of things in that era.
Mm-hmm.
But he is actually, in fact, I believe he was also, he was in Mortal Kombat also.
He was.
Yeah, he was Shang Tsung. Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, so he's
in Big Trouble in Little China too.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, he's in a ton of stuff. But anyway, so he he knows who Bond is. Yeah, because he's I think he's Hong Kong.
Yeah, he's Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so when Bond is about to take the shot on Sanchez, he notices that also Sanchez's chief of security, Heller, is talking to Pam, and she's giving him something. It looks like she's paying him off for something.
Right.
And that
go ahead. Sorry.
That just pisses Bond off that much more. So then he blows the window. He's going to shoot Sanchez, but then ninjas show up.
Unmasking the Idol breaks out.
Yeah, Unmasking the Idol happens. They watch that movie, and it's like, we need to do that.
Good template.
Yeah. And so he gets beat up and captured, and it's Kwang and there's another lady that's with him. I don't know if they ever say who she is, but then there is a MI6 guy that was sent by M to basically wrangle Bond and bring him back. Well, that ends up, by the way, that guy, Christopher Neame, he was in a pretty famous Doctor Who episode that wasn't. There was a strike that prevented his serial from the Tom Baker era from getting released. And it was never finished, and it was abandoned once the strike was over. It was going to be a season finale, and they just never went back to it. But anyway, he's going to bring Bond back, but then it gets attacked by Sanchez's people, and they realize, oh, hey, here's this Bond guy. And, they basically, at this point, Bond has earned Sanchez's trust. Especially the next morning when he wakes up, he's been cleaned up. He talks to Sanchez, and it's like, it's like, I think I can be useful to you, and so on and so forth. But he doesn't want to stick around because, he doesn't want to stick around Sanchez's place.
Well, that's a stroke of good luck, isn't it?
Yeah.
That he survives the explosion.
Oh yeah, because the thing that would have killed him lands on somebody else who's on top of him.
And he's tied down, so they're like, oh, he must be their enemy too. So it's very, very lucky. Because he fucks up. He royally fucks up like years of work.
Yeah,
because of his like blind vengeance
by two people almost.
And then he gets them killed, like three good agents killed. Yeah, like that's kind of fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that is also, like when he gets back, because like he uses Lupe to escape Sanchez's place. And she even warns him.
To be fair, Davi's already on to Kwang. Like he's already on to him. So
sure. It was only a matter of time.
Is limited, probably. Yeah.
But Bond moved that up, and his failure to like his failure to do what he thinks his job is correctly, or his inability to do the job that he wants to do because he doesn't have the typical backing that he would normally have, expedites their killing and gets them killed when maybe he would have saved them anyway.
Yes.
Can you imagine the movie, though, of the Hong Kong DEA who's been working on the drug dealer from Isthmus for years just suddenly ends because of this fucking crazy ass wild James Bond?
Yeah. It becomes a completely different movie.
Yeah. From a different perspective, Bond's the villain.
Yeah.
So then so basically he gets back to the hotel room and he's pissed at Pam. He's like, what was that all about with Hitler? And she's like, no, Felix gave me a thing that because they have Stinger missiles or Stinger rockets, that if we could get them back, we would give Heller amnesty, basically.
Yeah.
And that's when she says the one thing that kind of gets Bond a little bit more under control, which is, this is bigger than your vengeance, basically. It's like there's more to this than what you're going after, and it's a mess that you're making worse.
Yeah.
It could have been made easier if people would share information in this movie.
That too.
Well, yeah,
they do try to share some information. Carrie doesn't. She doesn't. She keeps it close to the vest. But Quang and other guy, they're like, dude, what the fuck?
Fallon was the other guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, we've been on this guy for years. Get, back the fuck off. What are you doing?
They should have just approached him in a lobby and said, hey, dude, here's what's going on. Instead of attacking him like ninjas and bringing
with ninjas. Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm sorry.
But it's 80s.
That's fair.
It's 80s.
They should have. It is 80s. They got to get some ninjas in.
You got to get ninjas in there.
But you're right. They could have done it more discreetly.
Yeah.
But then again, also, though, with Bond being a rogue agent, he is technically an enemy of their states.
Sure.
So you could still say that how they acted was they watched this guy going rogue, who's completely and totally insane at this point as far as they're concerned. And yes, and it's kind of lucky that that Fallon ends up dead too, because otherwise Q would have been in huge trouble as well. So in a way, there's all sorts of everything is made more complicated and difficult by Bond's vengeance.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a situation kind of like with From Russia with Love. Bond is behind everything in that. Like, he is unlike From Russia with Love.
Well,
Bond
he's
is
not
acting
behind.
on his own.
He's perfectly in tune with his own plan.
Right, but his plan is hampered by the fact that he's acting alone.
Yes. Yeah. There are other forces at play that
he would have known about. He would have known about that if this was an official mission.
Yes,
he would have known these guys are also involved.
New shit has come to light, man.
Right. Yes. So basically he at this point decides, like, okay, well, now we need to. I'm going to go get the money out of the bank, and I'm going to set up Crest. And because Davi knows that Crest is coming in, he wants Loopy there to basically keep Crest honest. Now, the story that Crest tells, even though it's honest, sounds insane. That a guy single-handedly took on everybody and then flew away.
It kind of makes the beginning make sense in a way. Like, it's so outlandish.
Right.
Like, it has to be that way so that Davi wouldn't, or Sanchez won't believe him.
Right.
Right. So
But it's like Davi was captured. Sanchez was captured in the most ridiculous way. So why wouldn't that also be just as plausible, what he's being told by Crest?
Well, Bond is but Bond has already. There are two things going on here. Bond has planted the seeds of distrust with Davi, but he's also he has $5 million that is missing.
Sure.
So it's like everything is fucked anyway, regardless if Bond shows up. Davi is not
And
a person that's going to accept
it's really the
disappointing
money that sold them.
situations.
Forget everything else.
Yeah,
it's the money that sold them.
Sure.
Yeah, it's the money.
So he says, he's like, yeah, he just flew away like a little bird. Huh? It's like, okay, well, let's go down into the hold here where Bond has stashed all of the
I wish he'd looked at
all the
Luby
money.
and been like, I love this kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. You expect to see like underwater stuff in there, but there's money.
Right. The underwater stuff is not in the underwater stuff. Underwater things in the underwater stuff.
That's how he's going to make his escape.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So Bond sticks back and is like, I'm going to watch this motherfucker get what's coming to him.
It's pretty surprising.
And it is not disappointing.
It's really not.
Because he's like, he looks in there and it's like, hey, what's this? And it's like, that's not my money. He's like, yeah, you're right. It's my money. And Sanchez throws him in there. And it's like, dude, do not fuck with a drug kingpin's money, man. I mean, like, but granted.
What do we do with the money?
We'll launder it.
Launder it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so bad. And
So bad.
at the same time.
So
it's like the only thing. Like, it's perfect, but it's terrible.
Bond gets back to Sanchez's pad and they have their conversation. And Sanchez like, hey, I got the guy who screwed me over. He's like, there's only one guy. And they're like, Sanchez like, what? And it's like, yeah, let's go take you. I'm going to show you the business.
Yep.
And meanwhile, Q is dressed up like an old Mexican guy on the side of the road with a big bushy mustache sweeping the road.
Oh, that's my favorite thing. That might be my favorite thing in the movie. I just love it so much. Like he was dressed like a Mexican fellow, just sweeping the road.
And it kind of looks like it's accurate.
Like a Mexican fellow. I know. It's beautiful. It really is. Like I love it so much. It's
so
like that is peak Q.
Right. He
Q.
And Pam's got to get a plane, and they're like, no plane. Sanchez has ordered your plane to be deconstructed, which is
Modifications.
Right, but it's basically in pieces. Her plane is in pieces, and it's like, yeah, there's no planes for you to get. Well, she ends up stealing one, I assume.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, she gets one, but then she goes to see. She goes to see Professor Joe Butcher, and she does a pretty good job at the gate, like playing the bumpkin from Wichita Falls who's brought a carpet bag full of money.
Yeah.
And it's like, we've taken up a collection, and he's like, and there's a letter in, and of course Wayne Newton, he wants to take
up a collection.
Exactly. And but she basically turns the tables on him with her garter gun.
Yep.
And Bond is with the quote unquote Orientals, doing the taking the tour of the drug facility.
I wonder how accurate that could even be. Like, if you could,
I don't know. That's a good question.
% of cocaine into a gasoline solution and then separate it. Yeah. I mean, that's what they're doing.
Well, there is. I think they also say there was a way that they could clean it too.
Well, yeah. I mean, the separation.
The separation, but I feel like they also say there's a chemical cleaning done to it to get the gasoline out.
Sure.
Because if you snort the gasoline, that's probably death.
I don't know. I know people that used to huff gas.
Yeah. But
Let me tell you about a whole subculture.
Were they writing fan mail to Robert Davi and Benicio del Toro?
Boy.
So anyway, but the problem is that Dario's here now, and Dario definitely knows who Bond is.
He knows he's not the enemy. At least he knows he's not who he says he is.
Exactly.
He doesn't know he's Bond.
Well, but he knows that he had a shootout with him at a bar.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and that he's working with a known informant.
Right.
Yeah. So, and he's going to hold Bond honest by way of gun in his back. But Bond is able to basically use all of the explosive shit in this lab to his advantage by creating a diversion with explosions.
In a movie packed with ridiculous things, this is the most ridiculous thing. Like this small laboratory fire just immediately spreads to every nook and cranny of this facility, and causing, like you said, yes, a chain reaction of devastation. It is so fucking dumb. But
I feel as though now here's my Bond world explanation. There's a lot of gasoline fumes in there.
sure, whatever.
So that's what causes it to spread.
Oh my gosh, it's such a perfect operation, except for the fact that one fire can blow the whole place up.
Well,
Yeah.
it's fine.
I mean, it helps that everyone just fucking ignores the fire.
Yeah,
Like
Right.
if they try to put it out
and a
initially.
firefight starts, and yeah,
Yeah.
Heller is trying to get the Stingers back, even though he said that the deal was off when he got spooked by Bond trying to kill Sanchez. Dario and Sanchez are going to deal with Bond. They're going to put him on the cocaine grinder belt.
yeah.
And it's like, it's going to grind Bond up. But good thing that Sanchez is like, hey, Dario, you've got this, right? I'm going to go and leave.
I'm
Basically,
going to deal with Heller.
I'm going to deal with Heller, who he says, "Oh, yeah, I'm just making sure these rockets get to your car." It's like, yeah, good idea. And then we immediately see other people carrying those to his car. Like, oh yeah, I see what happened there. You got forklift. You got forked.
He got forked up.
Yep. And that's kind of brutal too. You don't normally see something like that in the Bond movie where a guy's been impaled by a forklift. Like actually see the guy in that state.
I think that's from the A View to a Kill book, and they just moved it over here. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So they, but Dario, it's a good thing that when the explosions start, Pam is like, hey, I think I can probably get in on this. And she goes looking for Bond and finds Dario, who then basically distracts Dario to the point where Bond is able to pull him in and down into the grinder.
Yeah, and then she turns off the grinder.
Well, no, at first she's like, are you okay? He's like, turn the bloody thing off.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, yeah. By the way, they are high as fuck on cocaine. Being that close to the grinder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so they head off. Bond gets she gets in the plane. He gets into into one of the tankers. And then the big action scene of the movie happens where you have tankers chasing tankers. You have a guy with a bazooka and you have a plane chasing everybody as well.
It's wild.
Yeah. And, there's a lot going on with this. So the stretch of road where this was filmed was supposedly haunted. Like for real.
What?
No, for real. Like people like apparently
Most
like
haunted?
yeah, I don't know. Like call Zach Baggins. He probably gets out there and looks at it. But like overnight, wherever they stored the trucks, they would have like cameras and stuff on it, and they would and like the security guards would like see ghosts all the time, but then they would disappear when they would approach them. There would be trucks that would just be parked in like wherever they were holding them, and they would burst into flames randomly. There were all sorts of mishaps that happened that shouldn't have happened, that were time and time again like rehearsed and tested by the stunt people with the trucks. Like there's the shot where when Bond undoes the tanker part of the truck, and it like goes down the hill and it runs into another truck and explodes. It goes back to him, and then he like hurries up and gets in the truck and drives off. he almost ran into another truck that wasn't supposed to be there. Like, this was like, we tested this 5 times. Why is this truck here where he almost runs into it and rolls off of a fucking cliff? There was the truck that when the 2 trucks are hitting each other and then it like collapses the one truck against the side of the cliff. That was a mistake. That wasn't supposed to happen. That truck was not supposed to collapse like that. So that was super duper dangerous.
Yeah.
And then like with the big explosion at the end, there are photographs of like what looks like clearly like a fiery hand coming out of it. That is nowhere to be found on any of the shots that they have when they run the film. What? It just was a picture that somebody took that is not in the film.
Where is it? Where's this picture?
I'll just say that
it was in the behind the scenes stuff.
Negligence is often blamed on ghosts.
Sure.
So basically what you're saying is some poor Mexican bastard got killed in the explosion and no one claimed the body.
right. Now, so in the scene where Sanchez fires the rocket at Pam's plane and it hits the back of her plane. So, okay, so that was all rigged. I mean, that was just a projectile, right? That was not a real rocket or whatever, but it was supposed to like just basically go and 2.5 miles down the road, that rocket ended up hitting a guy who was working on repairing phone lines randomly and fucked up his elbow. Like shit that should not have gone 2.5. Like somehow it just kept going. It was only supposed to go like, half a mile or whatever. And then, yeah, that's the picture right there, Jason.
It's pretty creepy. It's pretty creepy. Yeah. The flaming hand.
Yep. That's it. But anyway, so yeah, there was
we'll share it with the posts or something. Yeah. It's creepy.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that happened in the scene, but what comes out of it is pretty good. But nobody who worked on the movie is like, I never want to be in this part of Mexico ever again. It's like, fuck this place.
What's interesting is the studio where this was shot.
It had to be built too. It was pretty dumpy.
No. I mean, it was a pretty well-known studio. It was the biggest studio in Mexico for decades, and a lot of Hollywood pictures were shot there, including Dune a few years before, which is all the more shocking that they got Everett McGill to be in this movie because it was a nightmare shoot in Mexico City. And at this studio for that movie. So the fact that he came back to Mexico must have meant he really needed the work.
I'm not sure that his stuff would have been filmed in Mexico. His stuff might have been filmed in the Keys.
Maybe.
Because all of that stuff where there's water, that's not Mexico City.
Yeah, that's fair. That could very well be. So maybe that's why.
Because that bridge where he... where they escape, those are connecting keys. That's a bridge that connects the keys.
Yeah, that's fair. But those could have just been establishing shots. Like a lot.
No, they actually filmed there. That was part of the behind the scenes stuff.
I mean, they had the Hemingway house there, and
yeah, that's true. They did.
They filmed on it, and that's where it's at.
Yeah, almost everything. Most of the movie was shot in Mexico, like all of the second and third act, but almost all of the first act was in the Keys.
I'm trying to find. It's Estudios Churubusco is where it was shot, and I mean, lots of big pictures were shot here. Like this was a favorite of the De Laurentiis. Like Conan the Destroyer was shot here. Dune, Rambo: First Blood Part 2.
I do know that the stages that were given to them for that was not up to their standards.
They had to
do a lot of work to fix those up.
They were in disrepair at that point. Yeah. But it's always funny because like it's amazing that they decided to shoot there. I know that I think it was because of taxes on foreign actors. The tax went up, so they couldn't shoot in the UK. But they chose Mexico, and from by all accounts, shooting at that particular studio was a nightmare, and it wasn't worth the savings in the long run. Like like lots of movies went over budget shooting there because of just the general inefficiencies and all the bribes you had to pay to get things through custom, like costuming and
Yeah.
and set materials and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. Anyway,
Yep. So yeah, this is where, you know, like, I mean, there's so much stuff that's going on here. Like people in the trucks are getting blown up. People are in the, like, Sanchez is continuously like still killing his own guys. He kills his accountant guy, which, I mean, quite frankly, yeah, get rid of that guy. But then he's going to try to shoot Bond with a rocket, and Bond puts the tanker up on the wheels on one side, so the rocket goes under it and blows up a truck that's been disabled on the side of the road instead. Once Bond gets rid of the tanker part, he goes through a fiery wall by popping a wheelie, which they actually made a truck that could do that. They had to weigh down the back of the truck, and then basically that would cause the front of the truck to move up. So I mean, that was actually not a very difficult thing to do, really, but they just had to piece together a hinge and and weigh down the back part of it.
Oh, you mean it didn't really do a wheelie?
Yeah, I mean, well, no.
Why are you always ruining movie magic for me?
I know, yeah, I know. Well, I mean, this is practical effects, baby. They built this shit, you know.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, this is and like there's just so much explosions, but not nearly the size of the explosion that kills Sanchez. So
oh my God.
He and Bond go over a cliff on top of a tanker that is now spraying gasoline everywhere, and Sanchez is gonna basically machete Bond, and Bond's like, I've got my Felix and Della lighter.
He's like, don't you want to know why I want to revenge your face?
And he shows her.
And then he, as we said, it has a comically huge flame.
Yes.
And it blows Robert Davi up. I've never
Well,
seen
I mean, it lights him on fire, and then he goes over to the tanker, which blows him up. Yeah.
Whatever. He blew up when the flames went off, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. I mean, no, there is no more Robert Davi. I mean, they have replaced him with some other lookalike.
Yeah.
In the years since.
It's like the Paul McCartney thing.
Yep.
It's a different guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's a different guy.
Paul's dead.
But yeah, Bond is going to get reinstated to MI6, and he says, "Hey, Loopy, I know you might, you're hot for my bod here, but I don't know, you probably have more power, hooking up with El Presidente." And she's like, "Yeah, you know what? I kind of like that idea." And Bond goes off with Pam. And Q has a few drinks.
Yes.
By the way, El Presidente, played by the son of the actor in From Russia with Love, Armendariz.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, he is brought back specifically because of that connection, and they were filming in Mexico.
How stupid is it on a scale of 0 to 1? Or 0 to 10, I'll give you.
0 to 1. 1.
I was trying to make it be really stupid, but if 1 is the highest, it's not stupid. That the fucking fish winks.
Wait.
At the end.
That's what that does. That's a thing.
Yeah, but it's fucking like.
It's that's not stupid at all. That's the thing. It's the fountain has an eyelid.
That's so stupid in the movie. I guess,
but it shows it. It shows it a couple of times.
Oh, it does. I only caught it at the very end that the fish winks, and I'm like, "Is that like?"
At all?
Like,
no, that's the fountain. No, okay. It's the fountain. So I mean, 0 is the answer. Well, whatever. I mean, it's Bond. I mean, they have fucking heat sensor in the next movie that finds Bond fucking a lady. So it's like, Oh, it's
you
Bond.
just ruined my favorite part of the next movie.
Again, it's Bond movie logic. It's wholly separate from any other movie that you can watch.
Right.
To nitpick a Bond movie
Christmas
is
comes only once a year, Chuck.
You guys are ruining everything.
I don't know. I don't know any
guarantee
doctor
these
jokes.
people are going to listen to next week.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
In fact, you probably ruined any chance of that this
yeah,
week.
Probably. I mean, if they've made it this far, holy shit. You know?
True.
Timothy Dalton would have gone on to be Bond again, but there was all sorts of financial issues and all sorts of stuff that prevented it. Part of it was Eon Productions was not happy with the box office returns, which usually paid for the next one pretty easily. MGM and UA were going through a lot of financial strife. And so, yeah, there was all sorts of stuff that was kind of getting in the way. Timothy Dalton never actually retired from the role until like 93 or 94 when they were gearing up to do Goldeneye. And he was like, at this point, I feel like I'm a little too old. And so that's when they finally brought in Brosnan. But there was a plan to do a movie in 1993 with him, but it got
Exploded.
well, yeah, I mean, it just didn't work out in the long run. I can't remember who it was I did see something about who was supposed to be making that or writing that one. But yeah, I mean, worldwide, the movie did well. It did not do very well here in America, but remember that's, that's 1989. It's the Batman and Ghostbusters and, and Indiana Jones. And there was just so much that came out in the months preceding its release in July that it couldn't stand up to it.
Well, and it's a little passe at this point too. I mean, we've had like so much content that has been about drug smuggling and cartels at this point in the United States between films and TV, like a Lethal Weapon movie, a Beverly Hills Cop movie. It's like, it's kind of like, oh, another one of those.
Yeah. But yeah, it's
Where did this rank, Jeff?
for me, it's third.
Yeah. Third overall Bond.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
And a lot of it has to do with the sentimentality and the nostalgia of it being the first one that I saw in the theater, it being one that just hit with me at that. I mean, in a way I did. I mean, yeah, it was PG-13, but I kind of felt mature seeing something like this as opposed to Octopussy that's goofy and stupid and Bond is dressed up as a clown at the end of that movie. It's it felt
And
more.
there was a gorilla suit in that one too.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
It's relatively brisk for a Bond movie too.
Oh yeah, I mean, it felt like I was watching something on the level, at least in my 12-year-old brain, on the level of like the Lethal Weapon movies, right? Like,
yeah.
Because this came out around the same time as Lethal Weapon 2 did. So it's like, well, I can't go to the R-rated movie or I'm not, I'll just get that on video or whatever. But this Bond movie feels tougher, feels more, just more mature than what they typically were before. So yeah,
it's very watchable. Yeah, I like it too. I don't know. There's something just kind of, it feels different than your typical Bond movie. You're right. It does kind of feel more like that late 80s thriller, right?
Yeah.
Action thriller more than it does a Bond movie. And I think it's part of that is the fact that it's the setting and none of it takes place in England and it's got the characters of a Bond movie, but it almost feels like you could replace them with anyone and it would be just a normal action movie.
Yeah. It's and also like I've always said that I don't have a favorite Bond. that I don't that they all bring something different to the role. But if you twisted my arm to say you have to name one, Dalton's performance in his two movies are probably my two favorite performances of the Bond era. Like he's something different from the first time you saw him in Living Daylights, and it's something that, even though he is compared to Daniel Craig's version, it's his own thing. Like it seemed like he almost instantly understood what he wanted to do with the character and did it twice his way. So yeah,
I'm going to rank mine next week, so you're just a little premature on that.
okay.
I'm joking.
Yeah, anyway, so yeah, I love this movie, and that's all there is to it. All right.
It's good. It's fun. It's great. What's next week?
It has
Next
sharks
week.
in it.
It does have sharks in it. Does Susan like this one, Jason?
She
Because
did when
there's
we
sharks?
watched it. Yeah.
Okay.
She didn't watch this one with me on the rewatch, though. She watched next week's with me.
You mean recent? She watched with you, but on the rewatch,
Yeah,
she
right,
watched
but
it. Or
just,
yeah,
but she did watch the rewatch of next week's movie with me. And
got you.
she did not care for it.
That's fine. Hey, it's fine. It's all right to be wrong. All right. So next week, next Wednesday, we finish Bond month with The World Is Not Enough.
Yeah.
I have a couple of really strong reasons why I chose that one instead of just doing Goldeneye again. Because those are the only two Pierce Brosnan Bond movies that I could pick that wouldn't have me groaning.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment for sure.
But we'll talk about that next week. So that's next Wednesday. That's going to be at filmseizure.com. That's also where you can find all the various places that you can follow, you can subscribe, and so forth. Also next week on Monday at filmseizure.com, we have a new episode of Monster Mondays where I talk about Strange Invaders.
Yeah.
That's a fun one. That's a little throwback sci-fi alien invasion movie.
I just watched that for the first time, and I loved it.
It's good.
I loved it.
That's one that I grew up watching and it scared the hell out of me as a little kid.
It is quite delightful.
Yes, very good. So that is next Monday, filmseizure.com. Follow us on all the social media platforms where you just search for us. We'll probably show up. This upcoming Friday at my website, bmovieanima.com, I have a review of Kroll.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good stuff. 40 years old this year.
40 years
Jesus.
old, Kroll? Holy moly.
Yep. And it's a better movie than what most people give it credit for.
I
I'll give
semi
you that
remember
right now.
when that came out, which
Yeah, I do
is
too.
kind of scary.
Because the glaive was all that I wanted.
Yep.
I wanted that glaive. Yep.
Well, I remember it always being on like TBS or something.
It was on TV an awful lot.
It
was
seemed
that or
like either
Beastmaster?
that or In the Name of the Rose was always on.
Yeah,
At
Or
the same time.
Beastmaster.
Yeah.
Beastmaster often
Beastmaster
too.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beastmaster
All right.
2, they would show that like late night on USA Up All Night for some reason. That was like
You say
staple.
up all night.
All night.
All right. So until next week, when the world is not enough, I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm Billy Shears.
I'm Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.